Hey guys, it's Rakshit here from Tech Contro. Today we're going to be talking about an operating system called Linux. It's a really wonderful operating system. It works really elegantly and you can compare it to Windows. This is running on elementary OS. Linux is different distributions that you can rely on, and each distribution works slightly differently, gives you a different feel of the operating system. Linux is really wonderful, spectacular, and it's really worth changing from Windows onto this Linux. I'm talking about elementary OS over here. You can see it's pretty much similar to Mac OS X. It's got a dock. I mean, you have a taskbar kind of thing on the top. It's wonderful. I'm not telling Windows 10 is bad. I mean, it's wonderful as well. But then this gives you a little more stability on your old computers. For new computers, I'd really advise you to go on to Windows 10 or more powerful Linux like Ubuntu, and you have OpenSUSE, all this kind of stuff. They're also pretty much similar to this, but you have kind of slight differences. This runs on a programming way called ASCII. It's the American system, and Windows runs on opcode. Well, I'm not going to go too much detail into that, but it's just a fact that I want to tell you guys. Okay, now to install Linux on this thing, you need a USB stick and basically a hard disk where you can store your data. I mean, your computer also has a built-in hard disk, you could absolutely use that. You need to install the ISO file. That's the most important thing for running this operating system. The ISO basically holds the operating system on it. It's this file that has the operating system. Now to convert into a bootable file, a bootable operating system, you need to put the operating system onto the thumb drive. For that you need another software called UNetBootin. That also you can install it. I mean, it's available on the internet. It's all open source. It's absolutely a free installation. You're not paying for anything over here. I mean, you just need a computer. You need these stuff. I mean, that's it. I mean, you're not gonna buy anything more online or anything. This is just what you need for it. It's fun. You could do it as an experiment on your old computer or something. It's something really worth trying. If you have old computers, it takes hours to boot, or I mean, it keeps refreshing, rebooting all the time, and you have installation, all these hectic problems. Get rid of those problems. You can install Linux. Linux also it's basically, don't worry anything about it. You have softwares available for it. Don't think you have like less softwares and all. That's why you have to stay onto Windows or anything. You can get whatever you want on Linux as well. If you're in Microsoft Office, well, you might not be able to get it, I'm not sure, but Linux has its own kind of word processor and all those kind of stuff. Linux comes in different distributions. This is what you have to be cautious about, and this might confuse you as well. Well, you have different ones like OpenSUSE, you have Elementary OS, you have Ubuntu, you have Lubuntu, Red Hat, Raspberry Pi. You have even different ones that are specifically made for video editing, like what your Hollywood and all those industries use. I'm sure they don't really use these kind of operating system that takes the hardware into its looks. Those kind of video editing ones directly let your video editing software communicate with the hardware and get your ultimate performance. So you need to know what work you're going to do on your computer before you decide which kind of operating system you want. If you take Ubuntu for example, you have a market over there where you can download apps directly and easily. Well, if you have elementary OS, I think you'll have to install it externally, or it even has here. Wait. Yeah, there's a software center. I mean, well, that's wonderful. You get what you want. Different ones like Lubuntu, I really haven't seen these kind of app stores or something for you, but you could still check on the internet what you want. Now, before you install Linux, you need something called as an ISO file, which is really important as I told you earlier. Just get that, download it, get UNetBootin, and I'll show you this process on it. I'm going to show you how to run Linux through your USB stick, your thumb drive, not directly from the hard disk. You can do it directly from the hard disk as well when you come into once you come into the booting settings. Once you boot into your thumb drive through the UNetBootin, you basically get an option to install it, or you can try it for free. Installing it is also free, and then later on it gives you an option over here, install elementary OS. This is for elementary OS. You can just install it that way. All Linux basically, once you put it on a try kind of thing, you don't have to install it on your hard disk. It's running through your thumb drive, and it gives you an option to install it onto your hard disk. Once you install it to hard disk, you got to go to your BIOS again and then change it to boot from your hard disk once you install it. Installation is simple and really fast. You could probably do all your work, I mean, installing, downloading, installing, all of that within probably an hour or less. And the thing is, different Linux, your downloading file size is different. So you might have one Linux which is around 4.5 or 5 GB. You have to download, and then that will be the size of the ISO file, and then you have to process it and all. You have some Linux which is probably just 500 MB or less, and within 5-10 minutes you can, it's on your computer. This one isn't really that big. It's really stable. It works well. It's pretty smooth. It looks decent. And as a fact, I'd like to tell you something. The new Chrome OS that Google has come up with, that also runs on Linux. It's worth it. Linux boots faster. I mean, it's just faster, simpler, and it doesn't. It's not a heavy operating system unlike Windows. Windows probably feature full. I mean, you have many applications and all that. It takes time to boot. Well, not Windows 10. Well, Windows XP is pretty slow. It's not worth keeping it. They don't even give you the Windows 10 upgrade for free. You have to get a paid upgrade. And if you look in a Linux, you get the same features you get on a Windows computer for free. It's faster, more stable, and it's a wonderful experience to have Linux on your computer. Well, for the installation, I'm going to show you how completely it's worry-free. Okay, now let's look into the how to install part of this video. The left computer you see is the old computer I'm going to install Linux on, and the computer right now you're seeing, the Asus computer, that is what is going to help me in the installation. I'm using a hard disk for this, which will be really beneficial for me. I mean, that's where I'm storing the ISO file as I talked about earlier, and that's a USB stick, the USB drive, the thumb drive, whatever you call it. I've got an 8 GB one. That's where I'm going to install the Linux onto. That's going to help me in the part of the booting and installation. Okay, well, you can see the left computer isn't in a working condition right now. It's gone crazy. I don't know what it's doing. Well, I'm going to reboot it and install Linux properly on it so it works quite well. So that's the USB drive. First, we got to install the Linux. Okay. Okay, that's done. Since I already have the ISO downloaded properly, I'm using a mouse over there, but that's going to make it easier. I suggest you also use a mouse over there instead of a touchpad. Of these makers of the distributions of the Linux, and then later on, I'm going to connect my hard disk now and view the already pre-downloaded ISO. You got to look at your computer if it's a 32-bit or 64-bit and download it accordingly, because it's not going to support all of it. I mean, you got to look at the one that's perfect for your computer. Okay, it's all connected. Just give me a minute. I'll just zoom it in for you. Okay, now I'm gonna open the folder. We need to format the USB drive first. I mean, just so that it doesn't affect your booting process. Just remove off all of it. Be sure to back up your data. I mean, no, before you actually try this process, because it might be risky if you have important data on it. You're going to format it as, it's not a normal formatting. You better look carefully while you format it. You have to do it as a different format. You can see it on the screen. I've circled it. I'm showing it a mouse pointer to you all, and then format it. It's just going to take a few seconds. It's warning you. Be sure on that. Okay, now you still have a chance to cancel. I mean, once you start it, now it's gone. I mean, your data is gone on that if you had anything. Even if you get a new one, it's better you format it first before you begin with this process. Now I'm going to access my hard disk and the files I've already pre-downloaded. There's another one called Unit Bootin. You need to download that. Now what I'm showing you is the ISO files. That's what it's using. Now just give permission to the Unit Bootin to access all your hard disk. And now you can even directly download the ISO file from there, but then I've already pre-downloaded it. This is a much safer, much fun, much more interesting way to do it. So this, I've selected elementary OS, that's what I'm going to be using. And be sure to set it to your thumb drive. If you install a hard disk, you're going to get into trouble while the system boots. So be really warning, this is the most important part. Now here you can, it's giving you different options. You can, it'll download for you and install it, or you could download yourself. This is the easier way to do it, but I already have the ISO, so I'm using it the disk image way. And rest all, it's gonna do it for you. It's gonna load all of that, all the files, everything. I mean, it's simple. Later, after this is done, you just have to take it out, put it into the other computer, and do the check with the BIOS stuff and all that. Okay, now this is done. The installation is done. This is what you're going to see afterwards. Now put exit. If you put reboot now, that's for the computer you're installing already. If you're using the good computer, I mean the one I'm using. If I put Linux onto that, then I'll put reboot. You can put exit and eject your thumb drive from it. That's really important step. I mean, don't just pull it out. Then we go on to the old computer. You have to take the USB drive. I mean, you have to check you're inserting it correctly. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And I am going to insert it into my old computer. I have a slot in front, so I just install it in front of you. And turn on the computer. And in this step, you're supposed to access the BIOS, which is different for each computer as I talked to you earlier. Okay, just booting up. It's an old computer, it's going to take some time to do this. Okay, then you have to press F2 before that screen goes off. That's how I access the BIOS on this Acer computer. Different computers have a different way of getting it through. Okay, then you add boot settings, and you have to ensure that the USB stick is in the boot priority, because you need to boot from the USB over here. That I can control from my F5 key. Different computers, as I said earlier, is different procedures for it. Okay, then you exit and save the changes, and it's gonna boot on its own again. Don't touch the computer this time, just let it boot on its own. Okay, now we have accessed the unit bootins, the part of it, and okay, this is the options you're gonna get. We're just gonna try elementary OS. We're gonna boot this from the USB drive, not install it on the hard disk. You could do that also later on. Okay, now just click it and leave it. I mean, don't touch anything after this. It's gonna look after itself. I mean, even if your screen is gonna flash and all that, just wait and watch. Don't do anything to it. There you see, Elementary OS is booting perfectly fine. This is the logo of Elementary OS, and just wait for some time for it to boot. As I told you earlier, this is an old computer. It's gonna take some time to boot, but don't worry about it. It's just perfectly fine. It's gonna take some time. Yeah, it's pretty slow process. I mean, you're just trying it now. But once you install it, it's gonna be fast. I mean, you keep booting again, your computer knows how to deal with it, and it's gonna be fast. Okay, now let's look at it. The logo went. Don't get scared. I mean, when this happens, don't think your computer crashed or something. Okay, now we got a pointer. The computer is booting absolutely fine. No worries about it. There we have it. This is the elementary OS Linux distribution. You can use other distributions the same way. I mean, it's gonna booting process the same way, but the look and feel is different. Okay, I'm just testing it out for you in front of you. It's working in a perfect condition. You have your browser open. I mean, they're giving you browser for free along with it. I mean, you don't have to install anything externally. It's just gonna work as a normal operating system, just like what other computers also have. Because I'm just showing you, around briefly. You can take a look at it. It's a wonderful and beautiful operating system. There you have it. That's the operating system.